Yo, what's up, guys? Let's talk about the new Temple of Chaos. This is the highest rank I got, which was twice the rank that was the number 2 at the moment of recording this video. I definitely highly appreciate it if you would subscribe to the channel, because that helps me out making more content like this for you guys. To just wait and see and just wait until, say, Theory crafts whatever happens, and then we can copy that and maybe improve on top of that, which I definitely do expect a few improvements to be made. In this video, we'll be talking about what are the best teams, what are my runes, and also what are the good replacements, but also what units not to use. And then also a few mistakes that I make, which I recommend you guys not to make. So definitely stay tuned. I recommend to watch the whole video. Don't just skip to like one particular team, because you might miss out on a few key parts for other teams or other things or interactions with this bot. So guys, definitely do enjoy this video. Let's get into it. Been doing this Temple of Chaos for a bit. I am currently ranked 1 with a pretty substantial amount of difference. First of all, I will showcase the runes of the team that I think is working the best for me. My team 1 and team 2 are very solid. My team 3 is definitely up for debate, can be used better. So there are a few things over here that we do have. And the first one is actually very simple. You just want to go straight on, do as much damage as possible. You have all units that can single target hit. I've been testing a few different units. I had a Momo in here that did decent. I had a Patrick in here that did decent. There's just anything that can pretty much on the skill 1 and skill 2 do good damage. So definitely a Gojo, definitely a Jean, but also the attack buffers in the case of a Hwahi and a Roswell are really useful, and also on a Mina. So I'll showcase what the runes look like, and then I'll go into a run, and then I go to the next team. So for the runes, it's just pure on rage runes, all kinds of rage runes that you can find, and just adding in as much stats as possible, all damage on dark, because we do have damage on dark this time around. I will be showcasing from the run, which was my record run thus far. As mentioned, I did use a few different units. I also used the Lucas in there, the Moment there. In the end, they all did about same-ish damage. I also did the Kyle. I would say the units where I showcased the runes of were probably the ones that I had the best results with. But these are units that if you don't have something that I just showed, such as the Gojo, such as the Shan, well, the Shan is really easy to build. Definitely would recommend to go for that. I also tried out the Drunken Master, but I would definitely say Hwai is a little bit better, maybe. Well, Hwai skill 3 is definitely nice. Thing that you have to keep in mind with this boss is a few mechanics, and let's just talk about that during this. Every time that you kill the boss, he will reset all of his debuffs, and he will also reset this count, which he does have towards just dealing more damage and having more damage reduction. So in the first time that you go in, multi-hits don't matter as much. If you bring in a Bale in the very last one, or even a Liam or anything like that in the very last one, it's not as crazy good. So that's definitely a thing that you have to keep in mind. Also, oh, you're not really seeing the HP bar. Let me actually fix that, where you actually do see the HP bar on this boss and the levels of this thing. Let me fix that one real quick over here, a little bit further down. Yep, that's a little bit better. Yeah, but let's just do it like this. So the main thing is that you want to do on your wave 1 is try to get in as many levels as possible. The moment you get in as many levels as possible, that is just where your wave 2 is going to be a lot stronger, because you cannot deal more damage than the boss has max HP. If you were to overkill it, as I choose to do an S1 rather than S2 right now in this example, if I were to do S2, you won't deal any more damage. So therefore, you always want to be trying to get the amount of damage in that is needed and not like full overshoot the damage. But you also definitely don't want to undershoot it, because then your next unit is like pretty much straight up wasting his stats itself. So that's the kind of things that you have to keep in mind. Besides that, just try to get as many levels in as possible, because adding more and more levels is definitely the best recommendation, because then the HP bar gets a lot more. If the HP bar gets a lot more, you can do a lot more damage on later waves with better units that actually just get anything in. So for this, it's just getting as many levels in, getting as much damage in, and trying to always kill before the boss takes a turn. Speed does not matter in this boss. It is just your turn order, and yes, you can lap your own units if you're like twice as fast as another unit, for example. But speed itself does not matter, because the boss will just simply always take a turn if you took 4 turns. That is just the simple fact it is. But if you never give the boss your 4 turns, then the boss will never take a turn, and you can just keep on hitting, and you can keep on damaging, and you can just keep on killing this thing. Interesting one as well. If you're supposed to get an additional turn, such as the unit over here on the right, he was supposed to get an additional turn, but he doesn't, because the boss does cut you the moment you took 4 turns. So let's say you go for Sierra S2. which I don't recommend to go to bombs in the first place, you probably will get cut right after that. So that is definitely one of those things you have to keep in mind. You will probably get cut right after that. So we're currently looking at 6 turns left. You do also really notice that in the last few turns, you start to deal most damage, because that's where the HP bar is more, because the level is more, and therefore you start dealing more damage. And that's just the main thing you want to focus. So definitely Team 1, do not focus on defense breaks. Just try to get as many units in with as high hits as possible. The highest I've done on this team was actually close to like a 1.1 mils, which is definitely a lot higher, and therefore my final team can do higher as well. But then let's go into the second team, which is the main damage dealing team in the first place. So as mentioned, this team was doing about 1.1, so I can do a 300k more than my highest rank already. This team is absolutely straight up goated, and there's one thing that I would change on this. There's a few specific things for the speed. You want to go as little speed as possible in your Miriam and your Jemire. You want to go as little speed as possible in your Draken Warrior, and you want to have 1 speed more on your Hongyong, and you want to have 1 speed less on your Mirane. That is the right turner you want to do, and I'll explain that a little bit later, why that is. But you want to go 1 speed above, so Hongyong first, Draken Warrior second, Mireille third. If you do not have a Mirane, you want to go for a Uldong. That is way better. If you don't have neither of those two, you want to go Lucia. Lucia gives extra healing and therefore more turns to the Draken Warrior. I'm not really sure if there's any other unit that might also add something value to this unit. Maybe like an attack lead or something like that on like fire with the Joe gun with 0 speed. I'm not really sure if that's going to be the right way to do it. But I would say definitely these 4 units are a must. If you don't have the Draken Warrior, skip this team, use something completely different, because this only works very well with the Draken Warrior. It's not going to use with work with anything else. If you don't have the Draken Warrior, just find some other team out there that does do proper damage. But let's go through the runes. So Draken Warriors, there's 3 important things on this thing. You want to be slow on your speed, so therefore you get more speed from the recovery you do, because the recovery you do gets into attack bar and therefore you can cycle infinite turns. You want to go 100 crit rate, of course. You want to be vampire, but also if we're checking the artifacts, you did I showcase the artifacts? Maybe I showcase the artifacts in a second. So triple fight on that, triple fight on that. For these, just care about the stats. Do I showcase? Yep, triple fight on that. All triple fighters, all of that kind of good stuff. Jemire also triple fight, but then on 0. Do I show the artifacts right here? Okay, I was potato and did not showcase the artifacts, so let's actually showcase the artifacts in here. I did already rune back most of the stuff, so therefore it doesn't really have the same stats. Artifacts that you do want to go for this is, in this case, you want to go damage dark, and that's what the main thing is, that you want to go on everything, all the time, all at once, everywhere. But outside of damage on dark, best thing you can have is life drain, because life drain does give you more recovery and therefore gives you more turns. On the other side, you also want to go life drain and recovery as 1. Your S2 already has recovery in there, so it does not need extra recovery. Your S1, you definitely want to have the extra recovery on. Also, if you have a little bit of accuracy on this thing, it does help out a lot as well, because the accuracy will help you for death breaking on your S1. And that just adds simply a lot more damage. If you deal more damage, it's not that you're dealing more damage for your high score, but you're definitely getting more turns on your Draken Warrior because you're lapping more turns. That's a simple fact on that. Okay, so then let's go into this team. There is apparently a slight bug, and that is mainly in the test area. If you go in the test area from your round 1 to round 2, you will reset this back to level 1. Which you don't want to do. If it is not reset to level 1, you will start off way higher. Thing that you have to keep in mind, 2 things. You start off where you left off with the previous fight. So in this case, we already have 2 attacks in, and we already have the branding sitting on it. We also already have it at way lower HP. If it were to be at 3 attacks and my Mirane moves right now, and then my Hongyong would move, then he would start doing a move before I move. So therefore, it's very important that your turn order is going to be Hongyong into this, because that's the highest damage output in case that the HP is pretty high. If you have, as I have right now, a Mirane moving first into your Draken Warrior, it's going to be kind of bad because you might not fully kill on simply an S2. So in this case, I can do an S2, and then I can still go for a simple kill because it's on very low HP already. So in this case, after this, it's just the simple thing that you want to do is you want to just keep using all your skills. You want to death break when you can death break, and just always use an S2 when possible. Your Jemire, right away, you want to go for a reset. I actually saw someone else play this slightly different. You don't have to go for an S2 right away. You can just simply go for an S1 because you already have the attack buff. so it's not that much of a must. So, but in this case, you did also see where the turn order, you want to go for the S2. Actually, in this case, I did do that right. You want to go for the shield and the defense buff, or, well, you can get a shield if it's a great, otherwise not. The moment that he's about to take a turn. Luckily, I did not get attack broken in here, which is definitely a beneficial thing. Maybe the turn order has to be slightly different. It is definitely better if your Draken Warrior is slower, because then you can also make the other two slower. That's definitely the name of the game on these. You want to be as slow as possible so Draken Warrior can get as much attack bar as possible from just constantly doing the recoveries. Every time you see him move, you see the recovery of 0, but all of the recovery he does goes straight into your attack bar. Therefore, also it is important that your Draken Warrior is on low HP. You don't have to go all the way no HP, but you want to definitely be low HP. That is the main name of the game on this one. And then afterwards, it's just trying to do as much damage as possible, trying to rock in a lot of damage. And in this rotation, I actually did do a 3.8 mil. So let me actually just speed that up a little bit, because this is kind of straightforward right now. It's just trying to do as much damage as possible. Another thing that I want to say, and that you have to keep in mind, especially in here, if your Draken Warrior dies and you can clear the boss, clear the boss. If your Draken Warrior dies and you cannot clear the boss, quit out. And I will showcase that in a second why you have to quit out. But the thing is, the stacks over here will make more damage reduction on your next wave as well. But also will make it do more damage on your next wave. Because of the more damage on your next wave, you're very likely to get one-shot. I've seen another streamer also get one-shot on that. I also got one-shot after like 10 minutes of reruning for the third team. I hella got one shot after that as well. So in this case, we can see we actually missed a few death breaks. I could have done more damage on this rotation as well, so it's definitely a little bit of an RNG fight. But you can see the amount of damage that I'm already doing on this kind of team, just by the simple fact of getting as much in. But you also do see that I did get a few extra useless turns in, and that is mainly by the simple fact where my units are slightly bit too fast. If I had slower runes on the Draken Warrior, it would have been a lot better. So that is the damage where we get in. We are close to a 4.7 mil on just this team right now. So 3.8 mil on that team. So 2 teams in, close to 4.7. That is absolutely insane numbers, and that's what you're aiming for. Because even this, the 2 teams are a higher rank right now than if we check over here, than the number 2 that is currently in Europe. Definitely do think if more people pick up this team from this video, they will be ranking up a similar kind of style. But yeah, that was the main thing. So then my third team, I tried a few different things. I went for ignoring defenses on these. I also tried to go for a Debra plus like a Brandia. I tried to go for a Bale. I tried to go for a whole bunch of different things. Everything did score about like 100, like 800-ish K to like 1 mil. It definitely does make it where the higher level the boss is over here, the more damage he will do on you, which is definitely something you have to keep in mind. Another team that I've seen other people try, and I will probably try myself, is a Jade plus a Copper plus whatever to try to be tanky, but then still getting your damage in and then getting the damage from the Copper. So I will showcase how I did this run over here. For the runes as well, it's just all like very low speeds, super high on damage, that kind of stuff. But I'm not 100% sure about this third team just yet. I could also see a world where you go for a Debra plus a Brandia and you apply defense breaks by like a Crow and that kind of stuff. But then in your 2 supports, you need to have your immunity, you need to have your healing, and you need to have a strip, because this thing can get immunity and can get defense buff. So there are a few options over there, but the moment that your boss is sitting at level 34, you can deal like a 400, 500k damage, and it would just straight up count the whole way through, which is actually really nice. And then ignore defense might not be as much damage, but it's definitely nicer against like the defense buff that you're getting. So at this kind of level, killing one whole level is a lot of extra damage. So yeah, this is the run that I did over here. You can definitely see how much damage you can do for just one hit. Like if I were to defense break it, it would definitely be nice. Big issue is, however, every time that you kill a wave, you will lose your defense break. So therefore, I'm not too sure if anything along the lines of a Debra would really be that great. Kiara is actually kind of nice for the Endure. I also tried, for example, a Deafness and then cycling the Deafness for keeping the S3 up every time. It kind of works, but then again, if you even cool down Deafness with 4 supports, the only thing you're gonna get off is like 10 Daphnis hits or like 8 Daphnis hits or something along those lines. Daphnis was doing like 120-ish K, so you still net to the number, which is not crazy high. But you definitely do notice that this boss is rocking in a good bit of damage right now. Where also, one thing, the Adriana is actually, the Megumi on Wind is a better replacement for this because you have Invis on multiple units in that case. But yeah, as you can see, I did not really manage to clear that many levels on this because this is just straight up the point where this boss starts hitting like crazy amounts. It's hard to survive, and therefore going for defense damage scalers might actually be a more interesting thing. Something along the lines of a copper or anything like that. So that is definitely something I will try tomorrow. Copper, Jade, plus a bunch of units like defense scaling, nuking, whatnot. Not sure if a bulldozer would be good, but definitely a copper would do pretty interesting in that. And that's where pretty much my whole team died. And that's why I still had 28 turns left. So I could have definitely done more damage on this team. And I could have definitely done more damage on the first team. Team 2 is absolutely great. Like, I would definitely say Team 2, you can't really do much more on than I was doing thus far. And this is also where my run does end. And after this, one more thing that I do want to showcase. But let's just see the final score on that. I should have just done an S1 because in the end, also the less units you have on the field, the more damage he starts dealing. But in the end, that did give me a legend right there with just 700k. So my Team 1 was 400k lower than my highest. My Team 3 was also 300k lower than my highest. So in the end, I did already use all my attempts over here, or I had one failed attempt, which I will showcase in a second, and also showcase why it went wrong. But yeah, over here, you could already see I was overstacking the number 2 by like double. Okay, then showcasing a few fails. So this is the run right after, and this is my second team. Wait, is this that bad of a run? Let me actually check. Yeah, this is actually kind of bad of a run, and that is because the boss right away takes a turn. If I had the turn order with not the Miriam moving first, but the Hongyong moving first, the attack buff would have made it for a kill, and I would have had higher HP on my Draken Warrior right there. And that's just one of those things that kind of goes bad. Also, in this run, at some point, I have more bad rotations, which can just happen. The Draken Warrior starts dying, and I had glancing over here, and on the 2 turns glancing, I actually glanced 4 hits. So all of the hits that I could glance, I glanced all 4 of them, and therefore, I have 21 turns left. But at this point, there's nowhere that I can actually kill this boss still. But I'm still stacking this thing over here. Also, every hit he does, he will be stacking that more. And let me show you the results of that in a second. So I die where this thing has 30 stacks right now, I think. Yeah, 35 stacks. So now I go into rerunning for the final team just to see, it's like, okay, can I do that any better? So just a 1.6 over here because it got messed up by the turn rotation. So I go into the boss. Boss still has immunity because of the last rotation. But the boss also had 35 over there. And I did not really notice the 35 over there. I was like, oh, the immunity, that kind of sucks because I'm working with like Nefties and shits. So I should have actually done an S3 over here. I went for an S2, just thinking like, I'll survive this hit, and then we go for a good rotation. He already does 14k across the board by this shit. And then he one-shots my whole team. So yeah, that's one of those things you have to keep in mind that you do not want to do. So learn from that mistake, don't make that mistake right there. But yeah, that's pretty much that. Unit-wise, I think that this team that I showcased at the start is probably the best for Team 1. This is absolutely the best for Team 2. Unless you have an Uldong. Uldong over here will definitely outshine that. And then over here, I tried this. I tried a few different things, but I will try probably this with like a copper and then like a few other units and then just kind of see how that works from there. Not 100% sure yet of what and how I want to do that. But yeah, there's definitely the options out there. Also, the speed buff, slow buff don't really work in here. So maybe some more defense scalers, maybe some other nukers. I'm not too sure yet about the third team. If you find any third team that's really good, let me know in the comments. But yeah, so far so good. Still got rank 1. I have seen people do higher. I've seen someone do a 6 mil, which was based on the team that I have over here. So he copied that and then went for like team 1, which was doing about the same-ish. And then Team 3, he went for the Jade plus the Copper. So I think that that's the best over there. Then for the units that do or do not work, Lucifer would really work, but I would mainly place Lucifer in Team 1 or Team 3. It does not work in Team 2 because you would overboost all of your units. Uldong, as mentioned, is best on her position, so I would definitely use it over there. Hertide apparently doesn't work because Hertide loses his stacks every time that you go for the next wave. So for any kill, Hertide loses stacks. I'm not really sure how that works, but apparently that's the thing. Bale also doesn't really work because you don't make a kill on the boss, so therefore he doesn't work for cycling. Carlos doesn't work because of the same reason. Odin is kind of the same thing unless you have like perma boss all the time, so that kind of could be a way. And those are the kind of like common units. Also, multi-hits most of the time don't really work that well. Only multi-hits in Team 1 is kind of fine, but anything further down the line is not that great. So Bale in the 3 is not that great. Going Shina, Martina, that kind of stuff is not that great. People have been saying Shaman. Shaman is also not that great because this boss has some anti-enemy max HP, damage dealing, whatever. So that part doesn't really do as much damage. So those are kind of the things in mind that I have been asked, like, okay, try this, can you try that? Those units all don't work too well. So that's about it for this video. I definitely do expect it to be possible with the units I have to get towards like 7 mil-ish if I can get a good rotation in. So I would say that 5 mil is definitely the high end, which you do already see over here. But I would definitely say my max reach, what I'm expecting right now, is about 7 mil with a good team. And a good rotation and a little bit of good RNG, because that part definitely does matter as well. And that you don't need an Uldung for that. You probably do need a Mirane for that, though. But without that, you could probably still get definitely 5 to 6 mil without the Mirane. I can definitely expect that. But there will be better teams in the end. This is just day one, and this is just me theory crafting right now. And I have noticed that if we check this, pretty much my whole guild was just waiting until I made my first team. And then they're gonna do that, and maybe some of you guys as well. So definitely, guys, I hope you enjoyed this video, and see you as always in the next one. And also, absolutely, if you haven't yet, subscribe to the channel, because that helps out this channel to make more content like this. Thanks for watching. If you would like to see more guides, join the Discord and check out the content tab for the guide video archive, which contains all of the guides that you might need. Hope to see you there.